The Dead Sea Scrolls, so much to talk about today. A new exhibition that is coming to the Museum of the Bible in November. Dr. Bobby Duke, thanks so much for joining me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here with you, Billy.
All right, so I want to get into this because the Dead Sea Scrolls, a lot of people may not know the significance of them. So I want to start there, but this is going to be a very large exhibition with a lot more than just the Dead Sea Scrolls. We'll get into what people will see there. I know there are different phases of this over the next year or so in terms of what will be on display. But for those who don't know, and I know this is a loaded question, what is the significance of the Dead Sea Scrolls?
Yeah, so before 1947, our best Hebrew manuscripts came from about 1000 AD. And when the first cave was found there at Qumran in 1947, it shaved off 1,000 years of manuscript transmission and let us see what the Hebrew Bible was like, what scrolls were like around the time of Jesus and the disciples.
Wow. Okay. So what you're saying there is very interesting because when people talk about the Bible and whether they can trust it and how far back do the texts go and all these other elements, the Dead Sea Scrolls, correct me if I'm wrong, have actually helped to fill in some blanks and actually show the depths to which people can trust some of these texts.
Yeah, no, I would say my personal studies in the Dead Sea Scrolls, because that's my research background, has given me more confidence in the Bible I read. You'll notice in any of your good English translations, at times some footnotes that might say Dead Sea Scrolls or Qumran or something. There's not that many of those notes. So it does give us a sense that the English translations we're reading today are based on wonderful manuscripts that go all the way back to the time of the New Testament.
Wow. Yeah, that is incredible, which makes this exhibit, it's called the Dead Sea Scrolls, the exhibition. It opens in November. It makes it that much more interesting because visitors are going to have a chance to actually see some of this content for themselves. Talk about what they will experience there in November.
Yeah, so this exhibit is actually coming to us most recently being on the West Coast at the Reagan Presidential Library. It is part of the 75th anniversary tour that the Israel Antiquities Authority has put together for the Dead Sea Scrolls. And this exhibit is in our museum over 8,000 square feet. It will include not just a rotunda with the scroll fragments and texts that are there, but it will have items from Jerusalem, Masada. It will have wood fragments from what is often called the Jesus boat. It's a first century boat that would have been very much like the boats Jesus and the disciples would have used on the Sea of Galilee. And really one of the highlights is the first time on the East Coast ever, the Magdala stone that was found at the site of Magdala, the hometown of Mary Magdalene, in a synagogue that was excavated not too many years ago. And this is a limestone table that most scholars think was used for rolling out Torah scrolls on the Sabbath, which is just fantastic.
That is amazing. So what do you think? Obviously, these other elements, the boat in particular, the Magdala stone, when you look at these things, obviously that's in addition to having a chance to look at the Dead Sea Scrolls themselves. What do you think this helps people contextualize? How does it help them understand Scripture better?
Yeah, I would say it's easy to sometimes read, particularly the Gospels, and think that it was a fairly just static society, but the scrolls give us a window into just how dynamic the society was 2,000 years ago. So we sometimes think of Sadducees, Pharisees, but there were so many more groups than that. And even this group at Qumran most likely was what Josephus calls Essenes. We see this dynamic, and it was into that world that Jesus and the disciples were spreading the news of the Messiah having come.
When you look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, the fact that they were discovered the way that they were, and for so long people only had access to going back a certain amount of time in order to corroborate in terms of what people were saying the scriptures actually said. When you look at the spiritual nature of that, which I think is fascinating, this idea that God allowed people to uncover these Dead Sea Scrolls and find them, what goes through your heart and your mind as somebody who has studied it and is looking at it and is giving you your own confidence in the scriptures?
Yeah, no, when I present and do lectures on Dead Sea Scrolls, I often like to show the Great Isaiah Scroll. So this great scroll that has the entire book of Isaiah, all 66 chapters. But I'll often zoom in to the first column where you have Isaiah 117 that talks about taking care of the orphans and the widows and all of that. And I'm like, that message that Isaiah wrote in the 8th century that we see on the Dead Sea Scrolls from 2,000 years ago is still a message we have today. So just to think even our Christian practice of what we do good in the world is something that we can see on these scrolls from 2,000 years ago, just like we can read in our Bibles today.
That's incredible. Okay, so if people want to get more information, find out about how they can go in November when the first phase of this exhibit is live, where can they go to do that?
Yeah, you can go onto our website right now, museumofthebible.org, and you can see links to the Dead Sea Scrolls. We have pre-sale tickets going on right now. They will be time tickets, so we will have certain amount of people going in at certain times. But the exhibit will run between November 22nd, open to the public, till September 7th of 2026. And one additional piece, we also have extended our Megiddo mosaic, another fantastic item that was supposed to have left in July. We will have it all through next year also. So we'll have the earliest fragments of biblical text and the earliest church ever discovered archaeologically in the same building at the same time here in Washington, D.C.
That is incredible. And, just before we go, the Museum of the Bible, this is something that not all that long ago did not exist. It was not there in DC. And this has been an incredible project to watch. I remember when you guys were building the building, when it was being talked about even before that, and to have this be a mainstay in the capital of America, there encouraging people, inspiring people, and helping people dig deeper and build faith in Scripture, build faith in the beliefs. And look, there are people who come into the museum who I know aren't believers, right? And there are people who do. But this has been an incredible resource to America. When you look at the impact of the Museum of the Bible, how do you process that? Because it seems like it's just had an incredible impact.
Yeah, no, when and I'll take time almost every day to walk around the museum just to see our guests. And when I see Orthodox Jewish people, when I see Amish people, when I see Greek Orthodox and Roman Catholics and Protestants, there's something for everyone here that holds Scripture dear. And to be able to walk around the museum and see the fact that this book that we all share is inspiring us all today, it seems very fitting that it would be here in Washington, D.C.
Well, I so appreciate you taking the time, joining us to talk all about the Dead Sea Scrolls. This is going to be a great exhibit, and we'll be encouraging people to check it out. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Billy. Take care.